Hello, welcome to another weekly update. I hope you've had a good week. A couple of things to talk about this week that are interesting. So let's get straight into it. So the very first one I want to talk about is concerning Microsoft Graph change notifications. So I've talked about these quite a few times before. They're a good way if you need to poll Graph to find out when data changes or find out when things are new. There is a better way. It's called change notifications. It's being kind of rolled out. Not everything supports it at the moment, but for the things that do, you should definitely look at using it. It's a much kind of better development model, I think. It's less load for you. It's less for you to worry about. It's less load on the servers as well on Microsoft side. And and so it's all around a good solution. One of the interesting things with change notifications is that it might be that you've set up your subscription, so you're subscribed to getting new information about something, whatever it is, and then for whatever reason your subscription breaks. And there's lots of things that could cause that. So for instance, let's say you created a subscription as a particular user. Maybe that user account got revoked. Maybe the password expired. So their credentials are not valid anymore. And so that subscription will stop sending data. Now, as an application that is using that, what should you do about that? Like, how should you respond to that? Because you don't know there's a problem. You just know that you didn't get any messages today. Now, that might be because you just didn't get any messages today, right? So it's hard to know what to do. It's not obvious that things are broken. So Microsoft are addressing this in Microsoft Graph with a new set of notifications. So an additional place you can subscribe to. So this is separate from the main kind of subscription URL, the notification URL. It's a different one. It's called the lifecycle notification URL. And if you subscribe to that as well, then you can get notifications about things that are causing your subscription to be breaking. So let me show you kind of what that looks like, because I did a blog post about this. So a bit of intro here. So here's a good one. So subscription removed, for instance. So if that happens, your application will get a specific notification to say, this subscription got removed. There's no point listening to it anymore. Like, it's gone. The subscription is dead. You need to go and create another one. There's also a missed event, which is interesting. So if for whatever reason your subscription was suspended, like the password example is quite a good one. User kind of password elapsed. So for a period of time before it got reset, then there's no subscriptions during that period, no notifications during that period. So that when they get resumed again, Graph will not keep them. That would be really nice, but it's not what's happening. They'll send a missed event to tell you that whilst you're away, you missed out on some stuff, basically. So I said this is separate, right? So there's a lifecycle notification URL that you have to provide when you set up the subscription. So it's optional, but when you go and set up the subscription, along with everything else you need to provide, like the notification URL, you can additionally do a lifecycle notification URL. It can be the same URL. If you want to handle it that way in your code, you can absolutely do that. The body does look different. It's got a specific lifecycle event attribute in it, or it could be to a completely different endpoint if that makes it easier to handle in the code. They do have to be on the same domain though, same QDN. So I think this is really cool. I think you should be using them if you do anything with change notifications. If it's important to you to know when your subscription is not valid anymore, then you definitely want to do these and make sure you subscribe to these. It's unclear to me whether this is just something that is supported across the board for all change notifications, or whether it's only for specific workloads. The write-up, so the blog post that Microsoft do about it, or sorry, not the blog post, the documentation page that Microsoft have for this only talks about Outlook, but it is linked in the main change notification section. So I'm going to ask and try and find out if I can what the case is there, but it might be that it's only for Outlook at this time, but I'm not sure. Okay, other things. So there's a new blog post posted to the Microsoft Teams developer blog all about importing third-party messages into Microsoft Teams. So this is migration scenario support stuff, and it's a specific set of APIs and a methodology, if you like, to to import Teams messages in bulk into Microsoft Teams from another platform, such as Slack. If this sounds like you've heard of it before, you definitely have. So I wrote a blog post about this back in beginning of September 10th. Let me show you that now. So this is the blog post I wrote in September 10th. There was no real announcement about it at the time, but what there was a Microsoft documentation page. And that talked about this, and at that time it was in public preview. It's an interesting way of doing things as well. The way you do it, you create a team with a very specific property, that sort of locks the team and the channel basically, so they're not like active and real and live, but during that time you can then import messages. You can set the timestamp of those messages, you can set who they're from, so you can really replay that history and make the import, and they go in as actual messages. They're not faked, they're not anything else, but you can set the timestamp, set the user, and they go in as real messages. So when you finish doing that process, you complete the migration process, you send another API call, and then it's done. And when you've done that, you have a team that looks like it's been around for months or years or whatever, based on the messages. So that's really exciting for migration scenarios, because that's what people have been asking for. So this was then announced a few days ago on the Microsoft Teams developer blog. I don't know why they chose now to do it. Maybe it wasn't quite ready. I don't know, maybe they're working out some things at the back end. But anyway, they're now talking about it. That link there is the link to the same documentation that I kind of saw back in September. But yeah, interesting. Okay. Other things. So this is something else I've seen in the documentation that I can't find written up anywhere, that I thought was really interesting, and I'm going to blog about this. Yet again, you're lucky if you're watching this, because you're kind of getting some information before I've had time to write it up. That's kind of how it works at the moment. I see these things, but I don't see it in enough time to get in before kind of this week's recording slot, but I want to tell you about it anyway because I'm quite excited about it. So this is interesting. So you are now able to customize the Teams App Store, so the company store. So rewind slightly, Teams applications, you have the Teams App Store, which is the global public app store for getting your Microsoft Teams apps. You can also create your applications yourself, if you want to, on your machine, and sideload them individually. You can give them to your friends and they can sideload them. You can do all that, and that's fine. And then if you want to write an application that is then available to everyone inside your company but nobody else, you can put it into the company store. So that's what we're talking about here. It's like a part of the Teams App Store that's only available to your organization. If you go to apps now in Teams, you'll see there's a section, if you have any, that says built for the name of your company. So built for Thought Staff or built for Acme Corp or whatever. And those are where your organizational applications go. What we're talking about today is the new abilities to customize that by providing your logo, some custom backgrounds, text colors, to really make it feel much more like your organization. And this is really good for users, I think, because it's that common familiar feel of, I can trust these apps, like I get it, they're my apps for my company. This looks right, it's the company logo, it's the company theme, it makes sense. It's much more of a demarcation for users, I think, between the apps that are generally publicly available and those that are just for my organization. So it's good to see. It's a good evolution of the Teams App Store, I think. That's going to be available on kind of shows up, if you like, in the Teams apps section for users once you apply it, and I think it's going to apply everywhere. So mobile, desktop, web, exactly the same. I imagine the look and feel might be slightly different on each of those, but that's the way it is. So that's exciting. And I think the only other thing to talk about this week is to let you know that I'm going to be talking next week at the South Coast user group. This is a new Microsoft Cloud user group. They're based on the south coast of the United Kingdom, in the Southampton area, which is interesting to me because that's where I grew up, even though I don't live there anymore. It's going to be on November the 3rd, and it's in the kind of evening UK time. And I'm going to be talking about applications for Microsoft Teams. So whether you're a developer or not a developer, what does it look like to build applications for and around Microsoft Teams? What can you do? What can't you do? What are the limitations? Where should you start? Where, some tips, sample code, all that sort of stuff. So if that sounds interesting, go and look at the link in the show notes. Go and sign up. It's free to attend. It's great to see another user group starting up, especially with such tricky times, and doubly interesting actually because they are launching a new in-person one-day summit in October 2021 in the Southampton area, in Southampton itself, I think, all going to be focused on Microsoft 365 and Microsoft Azure, all going to be 100% free to attend as a community conference. So that's really interesting. It's great to see another conference set up around this area. I think, who knows, October 2021. I really hope we're going to in-person conferences by then. But who knows, right? I wish them all the best. I think it's sensible to start talking about it now because, if you're starting a new conference, you have to start thinking about it now. It takes a long time to set up. It takes a long time to get things organized. I did a really interesting video with Mark Vale all about Comsverse. So like a 1 hour mega video. So if that sounds interesting, then yeah, go and watch that. Anyway, so best of luck to them. Really good. Okay, I think that's everything. It's time for a weekend, I think. A couple of things I'm planning on doing in the next couple of weeks. Probably going to take a while. I'm going to record some videos, basically, but like longer form videos. So look out for those if that sounds interesting. That's going to do that. I'm going to do that throughout November, I think. And I'm going to try and do them as much as I can before the Xbox arrives, so that then I can kind of finish video production stuff in the main for the year. I'll still keep doing the weekly updates, of course, but the kind of big video stuff and the big presentational stuff, because the conferences all wind down really after this one, I think, into Christmas. So, yes, have a great weekend, whatever it is you're doing, and I will talk to you again next time. Have a great weekend.